Ladies and gentlemen, today we're talking about the final assembly for your Mousetrap car. Yesterday, or the classes before, we worked on first the rails, and then we built some wheels. Make sure that if you are still in the assembly part of the wheels, that the cardboard's always on the outside. And be sure that this rear axle can be wound up and spun with a little bit of axle exposed here. That makes it all a little bit easier. And then we moved on to attaching the lever to the Mousetrap. And we did that by sanding and then gluing. We sanded a flat edge on there, glued it together, and then we added 2 nylon zip ties for a little bit of strength. Now we're gonna put the Mousetrap onto the car. And the first thing I like to do is check the bottom. If there's some spots of glue, that's fine. If there's an abundance or quite a buildup, you can use a pair of wire cutters or a pair of pliers, or you can just let it go. It does not have to be perfectly flat. It's not gonna make that much of a difference. What will make a huge difference though, is putting it on the correct direction. Notice how we have our spring attached, so that means it goes back down. So you wanna make sure your spring is on, not like this, okay, because that would make it possible for you to put it together backwards. So make sure the spring is on. And then you want to place this so that the arm is going out the front of the car. So this is the back. We want the arm sticking way out the front like this. When the arm is pulled back, ideally, we want the string to be right in line with the axle. So moving this further front may help a bit, but obviously you can't go off the front of the car too far. You also might want the arm to land in the middle back here like this and not off to one side. So take all that into account. When you have it where you think it's going to work best, I like to just trace it onto the car a little bit so I have an idea of where I'm going to put it. And then 4 dots of glue. 1, 2, 3, 4, and because this one has this little spot in the middle, add a little bit. But the point here is you don't need a lot of glue. I would rather the car or the trap come off and we just re-glue it than I would it be glued on and you can never get it off, because this is one of the things that we reuse. So we're going to want to tear this off and I'll reuse them next trimester. It's also something that you may want to take off and try at a different spot. And if you have a lot of glue on there, it's probably going to break the car when you try to remove it. So you don't need a lot of glue. While that is drying, I'm going to set it over here to the side. One of the things we like to add to the back of the car is a zip tie on the axle. You don't need to do this. If you don't have a zip tie, you could still make it work without it. But I found that this makes it a lot easier to get the string to get started. So I'm just going to put a zip tie right in the center of the axle. Something like that, and I'm going to pull it as tight as I can get it. And then I'll take a wire cutter here and cut off the excess of the zip tie. Something like that. Now, the string. We're going to start by tying a loop on the string. Now, the length of the string probably is more than you need. You might have to adjust it and cut some. But we're going to start with a loop that goes back like that, about maybe the length of your finger or your thumb. And then we're going to make a knot. So we're just going to take this and tie it around itself, taking that loop, bringing it back in here. Maybe I have to make that a little bit bigger. And the goal here is to get a knot with a loop on the end. Easier said than done. There we go. Something like that. That's going to work just fine. Then when we look at the length of our car and the length of the arm, this string eventually is going to get attached onto our zip tie like that and then wound up, right? So then this end needs to be attached to the lever. And you could do this a couple of ways. You could just put a piece of tape around it. If you're not too fond of tying another loop, you could do it that way. A piece of tape works, and the nice thing about the tape is you can take it off and try it at different locations along the lever arm. Okay, or you could tie another knot, another loop. You can wrap it around there and put a little dot of hot glue on it if you wanted to. And I like the idea of tying another loop but just to save time for the video, I'm just going to add a little spot of hot glue there and hold it. And now we have the majority of the work done. The next part is learning how to use it. I'll start out by winding this up, and I think you can see the rest from here.